Hello, everybody. It's Peter McLaughlin with BlueSky Hypnosis. Today is Friday live at 5. It's March 11th. I haven't been doing this, as those of you who come to these broadcasts in the past will have known, for a while. Had a move to Florida, taught a class, had COVID, my wife and I, for a couple of weeks, and so we were just kind of out of it for a while. And also doing some rethinking, retooling that I'll talk about later today. Before we get started, just quick disclaimer: I'm not a psychologist. I am not a doctor. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm a life coach, and I am a hypnotherapist. And I've been doing this work for 16 years. So everything that I talk about on this broadcast is all coming from that perspective. Take everything I say with a massive grain of salt. Figure out if the information, if the stuff I share works for you. And please make sure that if you have any questions or comments, you put them in the comments section. It's what makes this interactive. It's what makes it interesting, rather than just me listening to myself talk, which is really dreadful, I got to tell you. And today we're going to be, of course, discussing relationships. So there are three main areas of your life, as far as I can tell. One main area would be your health. So that's your physical health, it's your mental health, it's your emotional well-being. The other main area would be your finances, your job, your work. And then the third main area in the physical life, right? There's obviously a spiritual aspect to all of us, but in the physical realm, the other big one, of course, are your relationships. And this is really ultimately where we get hurt. We hurt each other in relationship. And so when I work with clients and we go back to a trauma that's happened either earlier in this life or in a past lifetime, generally speaking, we're going back to some kind of relationship, because again, we hurt each other in relationships. And it's like, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. We have our greatest moments, I think, in relationship. We have our most painful, perhaps our worst moments in relationship. And we're going to be discussing all of this today about how this all unfolds and what you can do about it. So without further ado, I want to get into just kind of the main topic, which is, and I think we all can recognize this: why do you sabotage your relationships? In my practice, in working one-on-one with my clients, one of the most rewarding aspects is working with people who've had sort of a lifetime of difficulties with relationship. Now, of course, there's all different kinds of relationship, a parent to a child, and siblings and friends and the general public, and relationship with your parents. And of course, the big one, the one that most of us think about all the time, is relationships with the significant other, relationships with your partner, your life partner. Most people are wanting that. They're wanting a happy, loving, stable relationship. But even in those, you can have all kinds of issues that arise. And whether you stay together or not, whether it makes sense for you to stay together or not, is of vital importance to most people. And in these cases, and there have been quite a few where I've worked with people, it's amazing when somebody goes from a lifetime of what they would call failed romantic relationships, where they just seem to have one bad relationship after the other, or they have no relationship for a long period of time, and they're lonely and they're frustrated and they think there's something wrong with them. And to see them go from that to meeting somebody and having a big smile on their face, and things seem to be working out. And this is, as I say, happened a number of times. It's what inspired me to do today's show, actually, because I was actually coming across what turned out to be a boyfriend, now husband, of a woman that I had worked with, I want to say maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And she had gone something like 9 years without dating. And she was perhaps in her mid-30s when we started working together. And the relationships that she had had previous to the no dating period were really painful ones, where the guy had left her on each one of the occasions. And then as we worked, which is kind of like this up and down. It's almost like a stock chart that goes up and down, and over time it keeps going up, even though it has these little peaks and valleys. And over time, she had met this guy, and things were starting to go well. And then she had a couple of moments where she kind of slid back down, and we talked through those, and we worked through them with hypnosis. And then it came back up. And the last thing I had known was she sent me a picture of her hand with a ring on it that she had gotten engaged. And I was like, oh man, this is amazing. And not long ago, I talked to her husband, and I didn't know that they had actually gotten married. And he told me, of course, that they got married and everything. And it's just so exciting to see people in these realms, as I said, have these remarkable changes. And it's happened on a number of occasions. So what is the root cause of relationship pain? I say that root cause of relationship pain is in the past. It's not necessarily about the current relationship, but and this is just the way I see it. The way I see it, it's about everything that's happened in the past. Because the past has created patterns. And as humans, we tend to follow patterns, especially in relationships. When somebody pushes my button, or I push somebody else's button, or when my wife and I get into an argument or a fight, we tend to follow the same pattern, step by step by step by step. Excuse me. And this is all happening unconsciously. We're not intending to say, oh, I just did this, so now you do that, and then I'm going to do this, and you do that, and we go up like this until we're in this place of arguing with each other, or not talking to each other, or saying harsh words, or whatever it is. So the filters through which we perceive reality, and what do I mean by that? So if you have a car accident and you have 10 witnesses to the car accident, we all know how many stories come out of that one car accident. Everyone witnessed the same car accident, but because of their past conditioning, they have these filters, we all do, through which they interact with the present time, the world, in this case, the car accident. And those filters create a different story, a different perception of reality. And so that's one of the things that keeps you, keeps me, keeps all of us kind of in the past. And when we're having problems in the present moment, my argument is you're actually reliving the past through these filters and through the patterns, right? That this kind of step-by-step situation where you go up, 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 and each person plays their part, and you get to this really nasty place. The other thing is worthiness. So relationship pain is often caused by a lack of self-worth. Now, where was this lack of self-worth created? Because if you accept my proposition, and it's not my original one, of course, that we are all children of God. We're all these magnificent spirits that are temporarily inhabiting a body. Why would any one of us feel a lack of worth? Feel like, we're not deserving of love. We're not deserving of a stable relationship. We're not deserving of this, that, and the other thing. Well, it was probably a trauma in the past. And therefore, when we're having problems in the present moment, in some respect, we are probably reliving the past. I wanted to come back to this thing about patterns for a second, because one of the questions that I learned in doing some therapy with my wife was, and it's been really helpful for me. And I've noticed that when we get into something, and I now realize, hey, we're just going into a pattern. The question that I'm able to ask myself, and sometimes ask her, is, what can I do right now? And I feel like this is really important. What can I do right now that's different? Because we're always in any moment of discord, any moment of stress, we tend to fall back into what is comfortable. And for example, in my patterns, and I won't go too deep into this, but some people will be able to relate to this. When there's conflict, I tend to want to withdraw and go into a shell and stop talking and all these other things. So when I ask myself in the moment of discord with my wife, what can I do right now that's different? it's often the opposite of backing away. It's often moving toward her, holding her hand, looking in her eyes, hugging her, telling her I love her, which in that moment where all this stuff has been activated and the patterns are running and I'm living in the past, in that moment, doing those things feels absolutely excruciating. It feels uncomfortable, almost painful, even though I consciously know you're just holding your wife's hand. What would be painful about that? But back to this whole concept of patterns, asking yourself the question, what can you do that's different right now? And then doing that different thing can produce remarkable results. And I've seen it in my own relationship. I've seen it in real time. And it also kind of makes sense to me. Tell me in the comment section if this makes sense to you. If doing something different when you're with a long-term partner, or even a short-term partner, and you get into these patterns where the arguments kind of follow the same thing over and over again, if doing something different makes sense. I mean, they do say that the mark of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So, let me know what you think about that. But I just want to come back real quick to the root cause of relationship pain. And I'm not saying this is an exhaustive list. It just came off the top of my head. So the filters, the way that you perceive the present moment, the way you perceive reality, the story you tell yourself about the meaning of what is happening right now, what happened, 24 hours ago, is going to be influenced by these filters about how you interact with the present moment. Secondly, you're running patterns. You and your partner, you yourself are running patterns. There's also issues I keep finding of worthiness, people not feeling like they're worthy enough. And if you think about it, this actually pertains to the selection of the partner. So one of the concepts that I came up with a number of years ago when dealing with clients who were in a really, really difficult relationship is the concept of all the fish in the sea, something inside of you chose that one, that person. Why would that be? Well, because for some reason, unconsciously, you felt comfortable with this person. Something about them seemed like home, even if part of your mind was like, no, 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 no. Or even if in the long run, it turned out to be a disastrous relationship. And here's another big nugget, that when we have problems in our culture, we, I think, unconsciously absorb the message. And I'm not saying for everyone all the time, but we generally, as a culture, tend to blame other people for our problems. And therefore, we may assume that I just have the wrong person. And if I leave this person and replace them with another person, I will get a different result because it's all about them. And sure, sometimes maybe it is, but you still have to ask yourself the question, why did I choose this one? And what do I need to do to make an internal change so next time I choose a different kind of person and I have a different result? Again, all kind of going back to the past. Because the filters and the patterns that make me feel comfortable in person A's company that cause me to reject person C might over and over again lead me to heartache. I've talked to quite a few clients who have had multiple painful, what I guess they would call failed relationships, where they've been with 4 different people, maybe married to 3 in a long-term relationship with another one, and all 4 have been alcoholics, all 4 have been abusive, all 4 have been sort of exciting, unstable people, and they keep repeating the pattern. Now, obviously, that pattern has to get interrupted. We have to be able to go into the past and change something about a trauma that occurred in the past. We have to do something about their self-esteem so that they unconsciously make different decisions in the future. And I'm not saying, you just rule out your conscious mind. That never happens, or shouldn't happen. But ultimately, we're really making decisions subconsciously. And so that's the part of us that I think has to change in order for our lives to change. All right, let's see who's here and what questions and comments we may have. Marie Hogan, it is good to see you again. Welcome back. Sorry I've been gone so long. Sarah W., good to see you. Here's Gertrude Hill, Kristen Hubbard. Sorry you're late. I haven't been here for weeks. You don't have to be sorry. I'm good, Kristen. I hope you're good too. And here's MA says, love the shirt. Thank you. It's good vibes only. Here's Musette. Musette says, hello, everyone. Big hugs to the planet and all of its inhabitants. It's a sweet, sweet, sweet. Sydney Morales says, it is painful, laugh out loud. So I'm not sure if you're talking about my shirt, which I get that. If it's something else and you want to raise it, feel free and we can discuss. Here's Joanna. Joanna says, or trauma in this lifetime. My parents have a hard relationship. When I spend time with them, I let my boyfriend know that if he argues with me in the next few days, I will leave because I am fed up with men. Okay. So totally understandable. And it's a sentiment that we've all heard many, many times. I think if we all step back from this, we probably could agree that it's probably not all men all the time, any more than if men were bitching about women, it certainly wouldn't be all women all the time. But that rather it could be, and I don't know you, so I'm just kind of making this up, if you will. But my experience with this is going back to what I said before, that the filters that were created by your past, what feels comfortable to you in a dating situation, what feels comfortable to you as you are pushing some away and allowing others to come forward, is what is producing the same results over and over again, that starts to feel like it's all men, because all the men I've ever had a relationship with, and again, I'm making it up because I don't know you, and the men maybe in my family, all are this way, which would then be similar to that anecdote I was saying before about working with lots of different clients who say, they were married 3 times and they had 1 or 2 significant long-term relationships, and all of their partners were alcoholics, all of their partners were abusive. To that person, in their sample, if you will, like a sample size of 5 people, or maybe there's even more if you say, dated for a shorter period of time, that they could say all men are alcoholics, all men are abusive, and we all know that that's not true. But for that person, it is. And as long as they're looking outside saying, it's just because I choose the wrong partner, not saying something inside of me is causing me to be attracted to these men. Something inside of me is causing me, out of all the fish in the sea, to select those men out of, there's 300 something million people just in the United States. And I know you don't live in every state and you meet every person, and not every person is male, and not every person is eligible in the right age and all those other things. But you get my point, right? That the power, I guess this is the takeaway from me. The power, I'm saying, is within us. We have the power. And when we blame someone else, it's like we take the power and we say, here, you take it. I don't want it. You take responsibility. And I'm not saying this is easy, but from my perspective, for my money, I would prefer to be the one in charge, the one with the power, rather than the unlucky one, rather than the victim. All right, so thank you for commenting on that. Let's see what else we got here. I'm the Soul says, even if I refuse this past and know the consequences of a relationship like this will destroy everything. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure what you're saying, but I love taking a crack at it anyway, and correct me if I'm wrong. But modern psychology, largely, not entirely, but largely, operates by trying to bring things to light, saying, okay, the reason that you are the way you are right now, let's talk about relationships. The reason why you select these men who are alcoholics and abusive is because of this thing that happened to you earlier in your life, the past. And now that we know this, maybe you have a chance of not making the same decisions again. The problem with this is that there's 2 parts of you. There's your conscious mind and there's your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind represents 97% of your brain's processing power. It is the absolute mammoth part of your brain, of the way you think, of the way ultimately you feel, of the actions you take, the actions you don't take. And that part doesn't necessarily, it usually doesn't, get addressed in kind of talking through problems. And I'm not denigrating that part of the process. It's a really important part of the process. And the way I see it, as I've kind of mentioned before, is that when I was trained as an EMT, we were taught kind of two basic approaches. One is you assess the person that is suffering, right? Car accident, or they're sick. And then the second thing is you do something about it. So the uncovering something by talking about it and understanding the patterns is fine. But now what do you do about it? Specifically, how do you alter or influence what's going on in the subconscious mind so the person doesn't do the same thing again? Just relying on their awareness, their conscious awareness, and just relying on their willpower doesn't mean that anything's going to change. You know, it's kind of like saying to a person who's afraid to get on an airplane, don't you know airplanes are safe? And show them the statistics about flying in an airplane versus driving a car versus getting hit by lightning. It doesn't matter. The person can believe and agree with you that flying in airplanes is safe, but it doesn't mean when they get on the airplane, they're not going to freak out again because their subconscious mind is running the show. So this is where hypnosis comes in. What we want to do is not just understand what happened in the past. That's step one. We want to heal what happened in the past. We want to change the mind, basically, around what happened in the past. And we don't have to wash it away like it never happened. But we want to change the person's subconscious relationship to what happened in the past, from something that's a threat to something that is more like forgiveness. And the forgiveness goes in all directions. So the forgiveness is what someone did to you, what you maybe did to someone else, and then forgiving yourself, which is oftentimes part of this. And then if you really expand the canvas upon which we're operating, which that's the essence of my practice, you are not just a meat suit with a brain attached that was created at the moment your parents conceived you or the moment you were born, but rather you are an eternal, magnificent spirit. You have always existed. You will always exist. And you may be playing out something that happened in a past lifetime. You may be working through karma in this lifetime. And the people that you're in relationship with, many of them, some of them, are likely to have lived with you in a past lifetime. And a situation where you feel like you're the victim and other people that look at it would maybe say the same thing. It could be that you were the perpetrator in another lifetime and you're unfolding a karmic pattern. And if that's the case, you would want to clear the karma with that person, regardless of which side of it you were on, right? Clear the karma, because once the karma has been cleared, the relationship often changes. It's said in physics, and I say that relationships conform to the laws of physics, that every action causes an equal and opposite reaction. And as you change, generally speaking, the people in your life have to change too. They may go away and disappear. They may become happier and closer to you. All kinds of things happen, but physics tells us that every action causes an equal and opposite reaction. As you change, the other person kind of has to change. All right, let's see what else we have there. Katie Johnson. Hello, Katie. Katie says, my siblings and I have a disconnect about past stories in and recent past grief. Could our torn relationship be affecting my own ability to have a present romantic relationship? Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I would start with something is causing your difficulty in having a satisfying, happy, stable, loving, romantic relationship. Now, could that be related to your siblings? Could it be related to your parents? Could it be related to something that happened to you when you were 3 years old? Could it be something that occurred in a past lifetime? Could it be related to karma? Absolutely. It could be any of those things. And so if we were working one-on-one together, I would be helping you through a variety of methods, including hypnosis, including using a pendulum, which is an ideomotor tool, and then just talking to you and listening to the patterns of your life, childhood, parents, siblings, and then the romantic relationships you've had, to get to the original root cause of what has created this. And what I was saying at the outset of today's broadcast is that it's so exciting when people who have struggled for years and years and never had a really good relationship, and it feels sudden to me, right? I mean, it may take 6 months, it may take a year, it may take 18 months, but when they just all of a sudden, again, I say all of a sudden, when they that quickly completely turn things around and they say to me, I've never been in a relationship where somebody treated me this well before, or now we're engaged, or now we're married. It doesn't mean they're never going to have an issue. I think everybody in a relationship has issues from time to time. But to have that kind of remarkable change makes perfect sense to me when I think in terms of root cause. So if something's going on with you that represents a root cause, and because I don't know you, I don't know if it's what is going on with your siblings, if it's something that happened in a past life, if it's something, as I said, that happened when you were in utero, and that what's going on between your parents, if it's something that happened when you were little and you were in with a babysitter. I don't really know, but it has to be something. And to me, that's super, super hopeful to know that there's nothing inherently wrong with you. It's just there's some kind of wound or pain down there that's causing your subconscious mind to behave in a particular way, usually defensive, that is kind of screening out the ones that would work for you and might be bringing forward the ones that don't. It's the part of you that might be causing what we would refer to as self-sabotage in a relationship. You know, I as I've said on this broadcast before, I use the word self-sabotage because everybody recognizes it. They understand what it means. And that's where it feels like part of you is undermining or ruining or sabotaging something you really want. I prefer to think of that term, instead of self-sabotage, as protection, self-protection. Even if it creates chaos, that subconscious mind is probably operating in a way that it thinks it's trying to keep you safe. It's just operating on old, outdated information, old, outdated traumas, that when those traumas are healed in your mind, the subconscious goes, oh, that's not a threat anymore. I can relax and allow this to happen. That's how I perceive this. But thank you for the comment. Here, I'm the Soul says, so do you mean that my subconscious is making the choice, not me, by choosing the familiar? Yeah, basically that's what I'm saying. And if you look at behavioral science, if you look at neuroscience, what you will find is that we all make decisions emotionally at the subconscious level, whether it's buying a product or a service, or it's choosing a partner. And then the conscious mind comes in after the decision has been made, and it justifies the emotional decision that was just made. It says, well, this makes sense for the following reasons. You know, even if 5 minutes earlier you said, you know, I'm just not going to spend any money for the next month because I need to catch up on my bills. And then you see something in the case and you're like, oh my God, that's beautiful. And it's on sale. And the conscious mind goes, yeah, it's on sale. When are you going to find it for that price? And you're going to get a raise pretty soon, and you just won't buy anything after you buy this. And pretty soon the conscious mind is satisfied with the reasons, but it's just justifying the decision that was already made. So yes, I am saying that the subconscious mind is making choices based upon the past, and it's generally producing the same results over and over again. That's in general what I'm saying. I'm not saying there can't be specific circumstances where it could be slightly different, but that's what I'm saying. So thanks for that. Claudia Thompson, hello to you too. Beautiful smile. Tim Erickson, good to see you. Here is Cindy Morales says, I'm honestly having a hard time having an enjoyable, intimate relationship with everyone I have ever been with, including my partner of 5 years. It's a drag for me. I'm unsure if this is past life related. Okay, so as I mentioned before, something is creating this phenomenon. So when it almost sounds, and I'm kind of reading between the lines here, so please forgive me because I could be totally wrong, but it almost sounds like you're describing that you're having some level of discomfort, and that's why you can't enjoy an intimate relationship. Something doesn't feel right on the inside in terms of, as I said, in terms of you don't feel totally comfortable. If that's the case, or even if it's something else, that has to have been set up. That dynamic has to have been set up long before you met your last partner or the partner before, or maybe even the partner before that. Something farther back is causing this issue. And when I work with people, and these are the things that we're resolving them not so much with the present relationship in the present moment. And I'm not saying we don't deal with that too, we do. But the real heavy lifting, the real work that creates the biggest, most profound changes is definitely in the past. And yes, it could be a past life thing, or it could be something from earlier in your present life. Sometimes it's both, and we have to work on both. And then what happens is that it almost feels like magic. It's like the right person has just been standing there the whole time, metaphorically. And when the client reaches this sort of new place, like the other person it almost feels effortless. That's what it seems like from the outside anyway, because it seems to happen so fast when these changes have been made to the subconscious mind. Is there a conscious component to it? Yeah, there is. I mean, with some clients, as they're going through this, here comes the partner, and now they're dating, and they're like, oh my God, I'm on the roller coaster now, and I haven't even finished working with you. And in some of these instances, we'll sort of work through things, how relationships sort of go up and down, and they'll have a down thing, and they're like, I feel like I need to run away, and we talk through that, and then we do some more work, and they're able to get through that, and then all of a sudden it just kind of whoosh, they're off and running, which is really exciting. Okay, where were we here? Yes. Musette, hello Musette. Breaking a pattern is the best way to start a change. I wholeheartedly agree, Musette, and I think you might be responding to what I said earlier about my own relationship, that now I ask myself, if my wife and I get into something, it doesn't have to be big. Usually it doesn't start as anything big. We all know this, right? It usually starts as something very small, and it goes boop, 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 and pretty soon it's pretty large, and 2 days later you don't know what you were arguing about, you just know you had an argument. And the biggest thing that has helped me with my wife in our relationship is in those moments asking myself, what can I do right now that's different to interrupt the pattern? Because that's what you're doing. And if you think about it, if there's, I don't know, computers follow patterns, shooting a rifle follows a pattern. You take out the gun, you load the gun, you cock it, you take off the safety, you pull the trigger. There's a pattern. And if you don't do one of those steps, if you do something different instead of loading it, if you don't take the safety off, it's not going to fire. And in neuro-linguistic programming, this is called a pattern interrupt. And just interrupting the pattern can often completely change things. It's almost like rebooting your computer. What happens when you call up the help desk? 90% of the time, whatever problem you're having with the computer can be fixed by rebooting the computer. So in the moment, by disrupting the pattern, you're essentially rebooting this interaction. And when you do that, you kind of return to a different pattern, a happier pattern, if you will. So yeah, totally agree, Musette. Thank you for the comment. Here's Sydney saying, oh no, you were saying that it's hard to be kind and compassionate after an argument with your partner. I agreed that it is painful earlier. Gotcha. Okay. Thanks for that. Heather Marney. I'm about to go through a separation. Oh, I'm sorry. That sucks. That's got to be hard, even if it's the right thing. And totally feel that even though we both have our issues, I keep playing the same relationship as the others with codependency. I don't want to keep doing this. Gotcha. Okay. So somehow, somewhere, at a particular moment in time, what you're calling this codependency tendency, this codependency pattern was created. And it could be that you took it on from someone else. It could be that your subconscious, because of some past trauma in this life or a past life, thinks that this is the best way for you, by maybe being agreeable, not using your voice, not setting boundaries, not putting your foot down, that this is the best way to have peace and harmony. Because who knows, maybe in a past lifetime, your husband, your partner was doing something and you complained about it and they killed you or something. Who knows? Anything is possible. But again, the concept is to get back to the birth, if you will, of this pattern. To see it for what it is from your perspective now as a mature adult living in your current life. And once we understand what created the birth, the origin of this pattern, it's usually very, very clear what we need to do to heal it. Oftentimes, this has to do with healing your past life self if the pattern was created in a past life. It has to do with healing your younger self in this lifetime if that's what created it. There's also another phenomenon too, which is sometimes people, because of something they've done in the past and how they've interpreted it subconsciously, they are unconsciously punishing themselves. And they're almost choosing relationships where they know it's not going to end well. So that's another little wrinkle that I will throw in there. That is something that does come up from time to time. The other thing that I will put in there is extremely esoteric, and that is, I'm finding this a lot in the last year, 2 years, 3 years or so, that oftentimes people are riddled with spiritual entities attached to them. So this would be the energy of a person who's died, and their body's gone, but the energy remains, and the energy can grab onto another person. And I've found people that have 4 or 5 different entities attached to them, or 15 entities attached to them. And especially with alcoholics, it's almost inconceivable to me at this point in my experience that a person could have been, or they are an alcoholic, and not have multiple entities attached to them. And the entities bring with them all of their own neuroses, all of their own fears, their anger, all kinds of low vibratory emotions that can sort of bleed into the person that is serving unwittingly as the host. And in those cases, you don't really even know where the entities end, what they're bringing to the party, and where the person or the client or whomever begins. And so sometimes when you clear all that away, you have these remarkable changes. It can sound complicated, but the bottom line is you're trying to understand at the subconscious / spiritual level what created this dynamic. Why do I keep having the same experience over and over again, for example? What created this pattern? Okay. And sorry about that, Heather, about the separation. I know that can't be easy. Mama's Healthy Adventures. Hello, Stephanie. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Here's the Dappler. I'm lousy at dating, having dated 2 guys in total. For some reason, both guys who have been professional soldiers, and more strangely, both lost their mothers as kids. Yeah, that's really interesting. Really interesting. And it makes me wonder, and I can't possibly know because I don't know you, but it makes me wonder if you had an experience like that in a past life. If you lost your son, for example, who was a soldier in a past life, and that part of you is almost seeking to mother these men in this life, and again, all unconscious, but it's what sort of feels right when you first meet, when you're first engaging with each other, all happening at the subconscious level. And again, I can't possibly say that that's what's happening. I'm just giving you the first thing that comes into my mind as a possibility. And to give an example to other people who are listening of how this can be created, this dynamic. And it would be really valuable for you to figure out what is at the root of this. And one of the ways of doing this is you can go to my pendulum video. The people who've been on a lot of the Lives at 5 have heard me talk about this. I have a video that teaches you how to use a pendulum. You can use a pendulum to ask yes or no questions of your subconscious mind. And you can start asking questions to determine if this is a past life related phenomenon, if this is something that was created earlier in your present life, if you took this on from someone else, if you have any spiritual entities attached to you. And in this way, begin to get to the root cause. Because once you get to the root cause, fixing it, healing it is a lot easier than if you're just going, oh, it could be all these different things and I'm not really sure. Because even something that sounds right to you, and that you're both like intellectually going, yeah, it must be that. Oftentimes it turns out it isn't that. It could be just the continuation of a pattern, not the creation of it. So that's really interesting. And I would love it if you'd sort of keep us or me informed about how you progress with this, because it's really, really, really fascinating how you had two men, not just one, where they both had the same situation. That must have blown you away when you learned this with the second person. Alrighty. Here is Musette. Musette says, I picked stray men in the gutter so I could fix them. After they were on their feet, I wanted them to leave, and they didn't want to leave me. It took 50 years to figure that out. Wow, that's super powerful as well. And I don't know, but please tell us if you not just figured out the pattern of what you were doing, but why you were doing it, and when that pattern was created, and if you ever were able to heal it. So thanks for that. Here's Kristen Hubbard. Hello, Kristen. Says, I have difficulty being with men and having a huge relationship, so I've been single for quite some time now. I tend to choose the wrong men. Okay, so that was one of the headlines that I had in the video, the bullet points, choosing the wrong person. And what I wrote beneath that for myself is choosing the people unconsciously. This is a point that's really important to remember, Kristen. It's, I think there was a book a number of years ago that was something like Smart Women, Foolish Choices, choosing the wrong men, written by a woman, of course. And what I would say is, it's not that there's something defective with you. It's that the quote unquote wrong men feel right because of some kind of trauma from the past. And if you heal that particular trauma, and then you flood your subconscious mind with the opposite message, and it's usually the opposite of low self-esteem. And I have tracks on my channel, one in particular called I Am Worthy of Love, both an audible and a subliminal version, that this dynamic starts to shift. And instead of unconsciously choosing the wrong man, you unconsciously choose the right one, if that makes any sense. So thanks for sharing that with us. Where are we on the time? Okay, cool. Musette says, I now remodel houses, not men. I love that one. And MA says, it's easier to understand intellectually why there are problems, but the emotional or patterns is harder to break or change. Yes, and I'm glad you said this, because I think the reason for this is that our whole paradigm is really built around what many people would call a 5-sense reality. Our whole paradigm is built around understanding it intellectually, understanding it rationally, understanding it consciously, with then this concept that then you can walk out and somehow magically make these things change just because you understand it. And that isn't necessarily true. You know, the example that I like to give a lot is that you can watch all the videos you want on playing golf. You can listen to people lecture about it. You can read books about it. You can go through magazines. I mean, you can watch people play golf. That doesn't mean that when you get a golf club in your hand, you're going to know how to do it. So the issue here is to come at this from a slightly different direction. To come at from the direction of, this is a problem. This is a pattern created in my subconscious mind. It's most likely created as a result of some type of trauma. My subconscious mind is trying to protect me. If I find the source of that trauma and I heal it, I resolve it in my subconscious mind will step back and say, this is no longer dangerous, and it will allow me to have a different experience. I won't have to follow the same pattern. Hopefully that makes sense, because you raise a really good point. Here is Steve Pollock. Welcome, Steve. Good to see you. Don't we sometimes choose a partner unconsciously, someone who resembles a parent, guardian figure that we didn't bond with fully? So we're trying to win the love that we never got from the parent. Yeah, absolutely. Everything about what I'm talking about today has to do with the subconscious mind. Could it be related to that parent? 100%. Absolutely it could. Is it a guarantee it's all about your parent? No, absolutely not, because there's many other cases as well. Could you be unfolding a karmic relationship with that parent? Were you lovers in a past lifetime? As kind of gross and weird as that sounds, that's possible, right? We take on different roles from lifetime to lifetime. So I would put that in the category, what you're suggesting, as one of the possibilities. With one of my clients, she lost one of her parents at an early age, and that was implicated in her difficulty in being in a stable, loving, satisfying relationship in this lifetime. Was it the only reason? No, it wasn't. There were other reasons too. There were stuff in past lifetimes, but that was definitely one of the factors that we had to address. We had to deal with that to resolve what she's having in this lifetime. So usually it's not just a single magic bullet. Usually it's a couple of things, and then it's also flooding the subconscious mind with the opposite. So if the person has low self-esteem, we want to raise that up, heal the traumas. Now we're in a really good position. All right. Thanks for that, Steve, and welcome. Hannah says, I feel disappointment from the past and have turned to self-isolation, which may be sabotage. Yeah, I guess you could call that sabotage. It looks like you're walking with a dog on the beach. That brings up another point for me, and I'll come back to exactly what you said. But I think our relationship with dogs, for example, can be so close because I don't know about you, but I feel like they give unconditional love. Like, you're never going to come home and your dog is going to criticize you for feeding them too late or feeding them the same food, 400 nights in a row. They're always just like right there in the moment, and it's just pure love that's coming your way. There's no criticism and whatnot. Let's go back to your question or your comment. I feel disappointment from the past and have turned to self-isolation, which may be sabotage. So yeah, you could view that as sabotage from the perspective of, if you wanted a relationship, if your heart's desire, even if you're afraid of it, if your heart is still desiring to be in relationship, and I think most of us, that's probably exactly the case, where we want to be in relationship. So it could seem like sabotage from that perspective, this isolation. But the isolation is a perfect example of a coping mechanism that the subconscious mind enacts, because it's basically saying, and I don't know you again, so forgive me kind of making this up. Subconscious says relationships are dangerous. The way we're going to keep you out of a relationship and keep you safe is to keep you isolated. Be inside the castle, inside the keep of the castle, with the drawbridge up and the moat and the walls and the fortifications and everything else. Keep all that away. But the problem with that is that if part of you is really desiring that, which is totally normal, then it can feel like sabotage because you're not getting what you want. And again, the solution here would be to understand why the subconscious mind thinks that you being in a relationship is dangerous, and to resolve that in your subconscious mind so that it can let down the drawbridge, raise the portcullis, open the gates, open the doors, and allow you to have a healthy, loving, satisfying relationship. So thank you for that. Let's see, where are we with time? We're getting about 10 minutes or so, and I'm definitely going to take some more questions, but I just want to update everybody on how I'm doing things now. So before I was doing Friday Live every single Friday, and now my plan, at least for a while, is to do it less often, like maybe sort of like once every 4 weeks, and to give a couple of emails as a build up to let everybody know that it's coming up and all this other stuff. So I still want to do these. But I think I'm just going to back off just a little bit because I've got a bunch of other things going on. And it also seems to be, for algorithmic reasons with YouTube, possibly hurting the other videos that I have up, the sort of the main content. So I'm going to be handling, doing this at least for the time being, say once every 4 weeks. I will send out a couple of emails notifying everybody of doing this. If you're not on the email list, any one of my videos should have a link that helps you get to the email list, one of my static contents, if you will. All right, so let's see, where are we? Here is Joanna. Joanna says, the moment I realized that I was sensible or sensitive and would argue with my boyfriend mirroring my parents' behavior, my energy changed. It was a relationship twist for me to a better place. That's fantastic. And that's certainly an example of where bringing something into conscious awareness and then doing something different seemed to make all the change for you, which is absolutely phenomenal. Congratulations to you. And it doesn't seem like you had to resolve anything from the past, which I would say is less often the case, but it's obviously a thing. So way to go, and good to you. Good for you for recognizing the pattern and then choosing perhaps in the moment something different. What can I do right now that's different? And that making the difference for you. So way to go. So Lightspeed says, is procrastination a form of self-sabotage? Yeah, once again, I would say that it's only self-sabotage when you look at it as, because I'm procrastinating, I'm not achieving what I want to achieve. And it seems like procrastination is the reason. When really, I think if you go deeper, procrastination is defensive. So the subconscious may be saying something like, if you don't take any action, you won't make a mistake. There won't be a negative outcome if you do nothing. And that seems in those moments perhaps to be more important than to take action where you could make a mistake, but it prevents you from reaching your goals. So we would want to know, what is it about the subconscious that's causing you to procrastinate? Did you make some catastrophic mistake earlier in your present life and the subconscious said, well, we're not doing that again? Did you make some kind of catastrophic mistake in a previous lifetime? Were you an architect or an engineer and the bridge fell down and a bunch of people died and we're like, we can't have that happen again? These are the kinds of things that could be at the root of it. So hopefully that made sense. Thanks for asking the question. Here is Annabelle. Hello, Annabelle. Wouldn't it be easier to talk to your partner instead of looking for confrontation? It's like people are getting used to making the problem worse instead of solving it. The key is to talk. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you on a certain level that you want to have really good lines of communication and really be able to get down to the nitty-gritty. I had a therapist say to me many years ago that in an argument where both parties are angry, right below the anger is pain. The anger is essentially a defensive response to pain, to feeling like something's being taken from you. And if you can get through the anger and down into the pain and tell your partner what hurts, sometimes that can help. But in certain cases, even where you're talking, and we've all had this experience problem where it's 3 a.m. They write songs about this. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Damn it, listen to me good. All this, like, there are these lyrics about people staying up all night trying to talk through their problems, and it doesn't seem to get any better in some cases. It seems to get worse. And in those cases where you're running into these intractable problems, in my opinion, and again, just take everything I say with a grain of salt, right? I'm not a psychologist. I'm a hypnotherapist and a life coach. But one of the ways of solving this is to get to the deeper issues in your own life and find out what pain is arising, what in your relationship is triggering this deeper pain. And when you find that deeper pain and you can resolve it, then when that trigger occurs, the gun isn't going to fire. You're able to remain calmer and not react unconsciously like you're being threatened. So hopefully that makes sense. Thank you for your comment. I really appreciate that. All right, a couple more here. Here's Katie Johnson. Hello, Katie. Self-sabotage has become way less of a bad word to me since practicing seeing my life, relationships in general, from the outside looking in. It makes sense to me and is not offensive to me. So yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that you were able to make this shift in your thinking, because ultimately a relationship is not going to get better through verbal or physical violence. It's not going to get better through arguing. It's going to get better through compassion, for understanding that your partner, like you, like me, is a flawed human being in many respects. And when I say flawed, a better word is probably wounded. Is a wounded human being. And that if you can understand what their wounds are and what's driving the behavior that's triggering you, and if you can understand that you also are a wounded individual and there's stuff from your past long before you met your partner that's getting triggered, that's starting to resurface, that this compassion is what's going to bring you and your partner home. It's not going to be, self-flagellation or blaming your partner or getting angry. It's going to be something more like compassion. So thank you for pointing that out and mentioning that. Let's see here. Oh, cool. Here's Joanna says, she's talking to Zara. Once I started to analyze my choices, I could see the lessons I was meant to learn. And I can say, what a lesson. This is a really important spiritual point, I think, and that is whenever you feel pain, there's a possibility there's an option of asking yourself, why did I need, or why do I need to have this experience? Because from a spiritual perspective, we are having particular experiences to help us learn something, and we often learn from the most painful things rather than the most pleasurable things. So I think that's an awesome question to ask. All right. The other thing I wanted to mention is, where is that? It's over here somewhere. Is it this? Yeah. I do have this track on my channel, BlueSky Hypnosis. Subscribe to it if you haven't. And this one is a subliminal track that couples can listen to while they're sleeping. And you can read what's being said subliminally. So I think this may be set to rain or ocean or music, I can't remember. But while your conscious mind just hears the ambient sound, the subconscious mind picks up the messages that are underneath the sounds. And it was designed for couples to listen to together, but people can listen to this as individuals, and you can read what's in the description and see if the affirmations, the messages, are the things that you want, if that's what you want in your subconscious mind. But a number of people have had really good results with this. All right, I'll take one more. Let's see, scroll down here. Here's Marie Hogan says, hello, Marie. I found that when in an argument with my husband, if I just backed off, it would perplex him. I would just walk out of the room, and within a couple of minutes, he would come and find me, and here is the rest of it right here. And we could talk and de-escalate the issue, but it took me quite a few years before I recognized the pattern and was able to break it. That is perfect. That is a perfect example of a neuro-linguistic programming pattern break. that the perplexed look on his face means that a pattern was absolutely broken. It's kind of like if you're, if you're in an office and you're having an argument with someone and a car backfires on the outside, or if a bunch of fire trucks go racing by, lights and sirens and air horns, and you go over to the window and you both look at it, and then you come back and now you try to start up your argument, it's going to be a little wonky. So perfect example of a pattern break. I would like to thank everyone for coming, for tuning in, for participating. This video, once we're not live anymore, I'll leave it up on the channel for a bit. I'm starting to delete them because, again, there's an algorithm thing that's going on. But again, thank you for participating. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. Thank you for everyone who asked a question, who made comments. And I hope you'll stay tuned for the next one coming up in a few weeks. I haven't figured out the topic yet, but that'll be coming up. If you have suggestions for topics that you'd like to see for these lives or for the regular content on the channel, please feel free to put a comment in the video. Also, to send me an email, you can use peter@blueskyhypnosis.com. If you want to work with me one-on-one, you can find information at blueskyhypnosis.com. So thank you very much again. I hope you have an awesome weekend. Best wishes to you if you're in a relationship. Best wishes to your partner and to your relationship. And may you be blessed in everything you do. Take care and bye.